Hey all, it's been a minute, and my great apologies for not being online for a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, excuse me, I've been dealing with some medical things and was traveling as well. So my apologies. So we're back. So thank you. Welcome to Live a Lit with Amy and Blue. And little man is here, and I'll have to share with y'all later. He got his hair cut. He doesn't quite look like himself. It sucks. So, any rate, welcome. If you're new and this is the first time that you've heard this, thank you for joining. Please subscribe. It's going to continue to grow, and I'm going to continue to add many more videos in and around a lot of just personal growth and development and things that I've been going through, but topics in and around divorce, grief, adoption, empty nesting, and life. So please like, subscribe, and feel free to comment at any point in time. So today I want to jump into why tiny? What got me here? So where do I start? I think it was, I'm going to say easily it's been 5 or 6 years. And growing up in the Midwest, I was very familiar with family, friends, and others in my hometown that were snowbirds. Basically meaning they would spend their summers in Iowa, fall, a little bit of the fall, summer, just early part of spring, and then they would leave and go south and stay south somewhere for the winter. That was always intriguing. So let me just put that out there. That's always been intriguing and in the back of my head. The other thing that's always been in my head is the question of, no matter how well we plan, will we, our generation, be able to retire like our grandparents did? And I think that's no, considering everything that's going on in the world. Or it'll look different, or we'll work, but we can work remote, and we can hopefully maybe build our empire yet, so that we could stop and drop and not work. But being a single parent, and majority of that financial responsibility landing in my lap, and then some, to just always be cautious and make sure Logan was covered and I was covered, I wasn't able to save like I wanted. I've always put into 401k and things like that, but I just didn't feel like I was able to do everything that I wanted and needed to do and prep for my retirement. And that was okay. That was just it. And so in that, I really started thinking about, how can I be creative? I work virtually. And when COVID hit, it was kind of like everybody started moving around the country and moving closer to home and moving different this. So that put a new spin on things. But 4 or 5 years ago, I think I stumbled on a school bus, and I saw a schoolie that was redone into a living space. And I thought, that'd be pretty cool. Now, also being the single woman, I didn't know if I wanted to deal with the schoolie and any kinds of mechanical issues or any problems like that. But I was obsessed, and I just started looking at anything and everything schoolie. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I was obsessed. And I think, honestly, through that, from what I recall, I stumbled onto a tiny house. And then it was like, this is even better. And towing something around was fearful for me. So then I got really obsessed with tiny homes. And one day we were coming home from a soccer tournament or something from down south, and jumped off the freeway and took a back way to get home to avoid some traffic. And lo and behold, we drove by a tiny house, a real actual tiny house. And so we turned around and we went back. There was a sign that said, you know, feel free to come in, check it out. It was for sale. And I'll tell you, all my dreams were shattered. All of my dreams were shattered. This thing was freaking so tiny. You could like sit in a corner and like turn the oven on, flush the toilet, turn the shower on, wash your hands, and go to bed. All in the same. It was itty bitty. I felt like I needed to be a little hobbit to be in that thing. And I walked out and I was pissed, honestly. And I'm like, no, we're done. Can't do that. So I went back to looking at schoolies and mini schoolies, like mini buses, short buses. And then I looked at RVs. But again, came back to that fact of towing it. Did I want to do that? I wasn't convinced. I wasn't 100 that I could handle it. So we didn't do that. So then I started looking back and I started getting back into them again. And then I realized, you know what? That one that we saw was like on the smallest scale of tiny. And there's many others. So there's like, you could start, I believe some of the smaller ones are like 8 by 10, 8 by 15, 8 feet by 15 feet. My home is 8 feet wide by 24 feet long. And it's 14 feet high. And it's 14,000 pounds. You can get up to 30 feet long and 10 feet wide. So imagine what you could do. So immediately I was like, Mine started going. How, when, if I've got Logan with me, dogs with me, how is this going to balance? Where could I put it? Because that's one of the biggest challenges and questions and struggles for some in the tiny house world. But I just kept looking, and I was obsessed for years. So every night we would joke that, you know, I have to go watch my nightly porn, my tiny house porn. And I would sit and just go through them. And I, you know, loved and doted and drooled over some of these places. And then all of a sudden, what happened was then I thought, you know what? This is really doable. Instead of me buying a home, a 2,000, I'd hate to say that, but I mean, anything in the area in Charlotte at that point, I really couldn't find anything under about 1,800 square feet that was, you know, something I'd look at, or, you know, that I thought was feasible for my family. Then I thought, you know what, no, Logan's about to graduate. This is the perfect time to do this. She graduates. I'm an empty nester. I can do this until she settles down, maybe starts having babies, and then I'll settle down where she is or near her or something like that. We've always joked that my tiny house will be in her backyard. Who knows? That might happen. It may not. But then it hit me. I could buy 2 tiny houses well under the price of a normal sticks and bricks home. I can have one in Iowa, and I can have one somewhere else where I wanted it. I wasn't 100% sure on the where, but it's on wheels. That's the advantage and the glory. So last summer, was it last summer? I'm trying to think. Not this summer, but last summer, yes. So the summer of 23. Because it would have been last winter, yes. We were coming home from Iowa, and typically what we would do in the car, I would always say to Logan, so, you know, summer's coming to a close, we're moving into the fall, what are your goals? So we would talk about our goals for the fall and what we're going to do in school or soccer or myself with career-wise and things like that. It was just a great opportunity because we were in the car for 15 plus hours going home. And after our conversation and just getting settled into our drive, and the dogs were asleep, or the dog was asleep, and Logan was asleep, and I was driving through Lexington area, my favorite area to drive through, just because of the horses. It's so beautiful, all the farms and the horses running around and whatnot. But it was then that I was like, what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? COVID hit, it changed some things. She's been home, she's been living at home, but you know, we were starting to plan and talk about what was on her agenda next, right? And I just had an honest conversation with God, honestly. I said, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Here's the deal, God. Something's got to change, and it needs to change now. And with everything going on, it was just one of those things where I was like, you know what? You know, and you will provide. And I trust you wholeheartedly. And here's what I would love. And I literally started talking through and listing things. And when I got home, I put it down in my journal. And I just started taking more action. Not financial or investment wise, but mentally, putting it into play and just really having that thought of law of attraction, and it was just going to happen, period. I just seriously was like, that's it. I put my mind to it. Boom, done. So I wrote in my journal very specifically what I wanted. I wanted a tiny house. I wanted it under $50,000 because I wanted to be able to pay cash. Because at that point, once I did that, all I needed to do was to pay potentially for a lot or buy land to park it. And lot rentals, at least in Florida and in a lot of places, could be as low as $500 a month. I've seen even $400 a month. So I thought, geez, that's it. So I wrote it down. And then I thought, what do I do for Iowa? Do I get a tiny house there too? And then I thought, you know what? I'm not putting any restrictions on this. This is what I would like. This is how I'd like to do it. But I'm open to other ways and how it may be done. Please, God, give me the awareness to just see the signs. That's honestly what I did. So I wrote it all down. I began to start saving. So there's a couple of websites, and in the next video, I'm going to give you more details and information about where you can check out to find houses or look at things and just learn more about it. But I wrote it all down and I just kind of left it, but I started really looking at the sites. And when I was looking at my nightly porn sites, tiny house sites, I started to save them. And this house was one of the first ones that I saved. And it was way out of my budget. It was about $30,000 over that 50, basically. And I didn't think it was going to be possible. But it became true. And on next videos, I'm going to talk about that. So that's how I got to here, and what, you know, really stood out to me, and kind of why I started thinking about tiny and how I got interested in tiny. And in next videos and future videos, I'm going to talk about the different sites and what I did. And I'm going to share with you the magical story of how I got this amazing tiny blue suede shoes of a house. Because that's what we're naming. That's what we've named our tiny house. Blue suede shoes. Is my mom. So when I tell the story, you will understand it even more. So thank you for being here today. Love you. Appreciate you. Go live a little. Live a lit. Live a little of life. Always say yes. And just do it. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will talk to y'all soon.